right, welcome back into the Double Coverage Podcast, coming to you on a Tuesday, day early. For those people that didn't see the post earlier on the channel, put out a poll, said, do you guys want the podcast tonight, a little bit later, but to talk about trade deadline stuff in the tier list tomorrow? The votes were yes to no, so it's a yes. If you didn't see that post, that's what's going on here. I'm Dylan, that's JaVon. Any new viewers, we are talking NFL trade deadline, and let's just hop right into it because we have so much to talk about. Let's start with Sauce Gardner to the Indianapolis Colts. In this deal, the Colts get cornerback Sauce Gardner. The Jets get wide receiver Adonai Mitchell, a 2026 first-round pick, and a 2027 first-round pick. I want to talk about this from the Colts side first because the Colts are 7-2 right now. Shout out Sauce Gardner. Woke up this morning 1-7, going to bed 7-2. Good for him. They ranked 26th in passing defense in terms of yards allowed per game before today. They clearly had a need in the secondary, and they and Lou Anarumo, it seemed like, per all reports, specifically wanted a long, lengthy corner. Sauce Gardner fits the bill for what this team wanted. Sauce Gardner, in his rookie season, was an all-pro. Sauce Gardner is under contract for the next 5.5 years. So the control is there. The price was also there. 2 firsts and a wide receiver in Adonai Mitchell, who I'm actually excited for AD Mitchell to get a new home. I just didn't think the playing time was there in Indy. But I do think that he has dynamic traits and should be getting reps in New York over the likes of Allen Lazard. Absolutely. So
for sure.
For the Colts, I'll start with this question before we talk about who won and who lost the trade. After this trade, do you view the Colts as any more likely to win the Super Bowl than you did before the trade?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you kind of have to, bro. Like, their defense had a weakness. Now, I feel like their defense is good enough to where if Daniel Jones is underwhelming in the playoffs, that defense will be able to keep you in the game at all levels. You know, they won't be taken advantage of, because when you go down their depth chart, man, you go down their starters, you gotta think now that defense, or at least that secondary, is top 5 in the NFL, and that is something that they haven't had in a minute.
On paper, absolutely disgusting. The starting secondary looks like this: Sauce Gardner, Charvarius Ward, Kenny Moore, Cam Bynum, and Nick Cross, when all healthy, which they should be for the playoffs. That is a dangerous, lethal group. The Indianapolis Colts are coming off of a loss to your Pittsburgh Steelers. I know that you had eyes on that game. I did as well. I felt like turnovers absolutely killed them in that game. I didn't feel like their defense was by any means the problem in that game. Would they have 5 turnovers in that game? I just think 6. It's just impossible. I think it's impossible to win a football game when you have 6 turnovers. It was still a 1-score game. It never felt that way to me, but I wouldn't blame the defense for that loss. But I do think when you start to look around the rest of the AFC and you're the Indianapolis Colts, there are some realities you have to tell yourself. I think Daniel Jones has had a really solid year this year, but I don't think anybody would put him in conversations with the likes of Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, and even to an extent Drake May. And those are the quarterbacks you're going to have to go up against in the playoffs in the AFC. So where do you close the gap? Having a defense with a lockdown secondary, Buckner, Latu, who is really showing out in his sophomore season, and a real run game behind Jonathan Taylor. So you limit the opposing team's possessions, and when they have the ball, you make it hell on them to move the ball. I think that is the formula. Daniel Jones cannot afford to turn the ball over in the playoffs remotely close to the rate that he did versus Pittsburgh. I think everybody would agree on that. But I do believe this move, if Sauce Gardner can get back to where Sauce Gardner was, absolutely. I had the Colts as legit Super Bowl contenders before, but solidifies them in that spot. Yeah. The question is, can Sauce Gardner get back to the player he once was?
I don't think he has to be the all-pro, man. I think if he just plays,
I think if I traded 2 first-round picks for him and a young wide receiver, he's got to be a Pro Bowler at least.
No, yeah, I get what you're saying. What I'm saying is, like, he doesn't have to be his rookie year self for this defense to drastically get better. You know, they already have other good players on that defense. But yeah, like you said, if you're going to trade 2 first-round picks, you have to get that return on your investment for sure. And for Daniel Jones, man, like I don't know. I've been hearing people say the trade is bad for the Colts because why are you going all in when Daniel Jones is your quarterback? But I'm thinking you got an MVP in Jonathan Taylor. As long as you can give him anywhere remotely to 20 touches, you're going to be in the game. I think
Yeah.
that's the reason why they didn't win, because they didn't want to give him the ball. But yeah, if you have Jonathan Taylor, you have a run game, you have a dominant defense, that's the recipe you need right there. So I don't have a problem with that trade at all.
I don't have a problem with it. And, I was texting one of my buddies about this, and he said to me, a good situation makes a good player better. That was his thoughts on Sauce Gardner. A bad
Fair.
situation, sometimes you get low effort, and maybe a change of scenery is what Sauce needed. It was a really weird trade from the Jets because this was the first of their 2 big moves that we saw, and we thought that the Jets might move off of Jermaine Johnson or Breece Hall at the deadline.
Yeah.
Evidently, they didn't move off of either of them, but the Jets clearly said, we're blowing it up. And Aaron Glenn, it looks like, moved guys that didn't fit his culture. And that is a little bit of something that I do worry about with Sauce. I don't know the guy, so I'm not going to sit up there like one of them talking heads on a TV show and be like, I know he's got attitude problems. But if you don't fit Aaron Glenn's culture to the point where he thinks it's best to move you, there are some question marks on my end of, are you a good culture fit? Are you a high effort, high energy player? I think when Sauce is playing his best, he is a top 10 corner in the sport. And I think, the Colts first round pick this year, at worst, what's it going to be? Mid 20s.
Yeah.
The winner and loser of this trade will really be dependent on, is this Daniel Jones run a Lynn but the winner
For
and
real.
loser of the trade will really be dependent on, can the Colts continue to win with Daniel Jones for the rest of this year and next year? Because imagine they just do fine this year, but next year he falls off, and that's a top 10 pick. Now, all of a sudden, the Jets got the 25th, 26th pick and a top 10 pick and Adonai Mitchell. And if Sauce doesn't
Yeah.
get back to those Pro Bowl, so I think that there's a lot of risk involved for the Colts, whereas there's not a lot of risk involved for the Jets. I think it is a high risk, high reward situation for the Colts, not just betting on Sauce Gardner, but betting on the team that they have. Because coming into the season, what were our projections for Indianapolis? To win maybe 7 games?
Yeah.
Now we're talking about them as a potential 1 seed in the AFC, and I commend them for going for it, but going for it does come with risk. So to me, I would say that I think that the Jets won on this deal, especially with where we see that they end up in the Quinnen deal. I think the Jets had a successful day. I don't know why the Jets didn't move Breece Hall, to be completely honest, but the Jets now hold, what is it, 5 first-round picks over the next 2 years, 7
Yeah.
total first and second-round picks over the next 2 years. So the Jets are absolutely reloaded, and I think for the Indianapolis Colts, they went in, and it's to be determined if it's a win for them. If they get the Sauce Gardner from last year and most of this year, I do think it was an L.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Jets won the trade. And
Yeah.
the one, I don't know if this is like, there is a common
2
denominator
firsts
between,
for a corner is just a hefty, hefty price if you don't know that he's going to be elite.
you can't even turn that down if you're the Jets. So that kind of like was gift wrapped to them. But
Yeah.
not only that, I feel like there's a common denominator between the 2 people who got traded. They both received massive contract extensions, whether it's recent, how recent it was, it doesn't matter. And when you think about it, maybe they got their money to let their foot off the gas, and maybe that is why they're not showing the effort, because their team is losing. They got money, they don't care.
It's possible. A bad situation,
Yeah,
bad men, it leads bad results in a change of situation could get high energy, high level play, and that's what the Colts are betting on. And I think if we see that, the trade could be a win for them. But today, I would agree with you that the New York Jets won this deal. Now, to what is maybe the more puzzling deal that happened, because we talk about the Colts, they're 7-2, they're all in on the year. They need secondary help. They go get Sauce. They pay a hefty price, but we get why they did it. The Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys made a splash trade and they acquired defensive tackle Quinnen Williams. They trade away Mozzie Smith, a 2026 second round pick, and a 2027 first round pick. The Dallas Cowboys are now 3-5-1 after losing to the 2-win Arizona Cardinals on Monday Night Football. And an immediate text that I got from a buddy of mine who is not an insane, like high-level ball watcher. I want to preface this before I get before I say what the text was. The Cowboys are making the playoffs now. And I said to him, okay, let's lay it out. The Eagles, the Packers, the Buccaneers, the Seahawks, the Rams, the Lions, the 49ers, the Bears, the Vikings. They have to jump 3 of those teams. Which 3 are out? And he said, naturally, the Bears, the Vikings, and the 49ers, which I think would be the 3 more jumpable teams of the bunch. But I said the 49ers sit at 6-3. They have a pretty favorable schedule left, and they're only going to get healthier. I find it hard to believe that Dallas, who's 2.5, 3 games back of them, is going to surpass them, especially a Dallas team that didn't add to their secondary, that's dealing with Trayvon Diggs, now Deron Bland banged up. The front line is fantastic post this deal. However, a team in Dallas that's going to be bad when this year is over, trading away high-level draft capital, it doesn't make much sense to me. Because this is going to be a popular take and people beating the drum. Why did you move Micah Parsons? Because you didn't. Yes, you were still up draft capital and Quinnen Williams. It wasn't the exact same price. Like, you're still theoretically up more than you. Like, you still have more draft capital than you had to give away to get Quinnen Williams. You got more back from Micah, but your D-line has been shot this year. Your whole defense has been shot, but the D-line was a part of that. Quinnen Williams next to Kenny Smith, Ezraku, who's starting to get more play time, looks really solid there. Jadeveon Clowney actually had a really nice night last night. So that D-line does seem to have really high potential. And to run on Kenny Clark and Quinnen Williams is going to be a nightmare for opposing teams.
Yeah.
That is 100% the truth. But this is an all-in move. The same way that we just talked about the Colts move being all in, they're 7-2. They're the number 1 seed in the AFC right now. The Dallas Cowboys aren't close to the playoffs this year. And they still have games left against the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Lions. It's not even like we're looking at a cupcake schedule the rest of the way. So to me, this move feels like we'll see what happens this year, but very much a bet on the future. And a bet on the future for any Dallas Cowboys team doesn't sit great with me. And that 2027 first round pick is whatever the better pick is of the Packers and Cowboys. It's a conditional pick. So let's say, not hoping for it, but God forbid, the Packers come into next season, Jordan Love gets hurt, out for the year, they win 3 games. That pick goes to the Jets because the condition from this is they get whatever the better pick is of the Cowboys or Packers.
Wow.
So even if you overperform and you hope to be better than the Packers, you're losing that Packers pick if you're the Cowboys. So that's where logistically some of the aspects of this trade doesn't make sense to me. However, Quinnen Williams is a game-wrecking-esque player, and this is the price you pay for him. Dallas paying it is odd to me, though.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say they've been the best at drafting players in the first round over the last few. Of course, the obvious picks like Micah, and they have a couple of other picks.
Tyler Booker from this year is looking decent.
But he looks decent as well. But one thing I know for sure, Mozzie Smith was not a good player.
Went back to the Jets in this deal.
Yeah, he was not a good player at all. So to get rid of him and to upgrade as far as you could upgrade in that perspective is good. And I just don't know. They're investing a lot of money. They're really top heavy now, bro. Like you said,
the reason you didn't want to pay Micah is because you were going to be top heavy. But now you're paying Kenny Clark and Quinnen Williams what you would have paid Micah.
Exactly. And what are you really saving? What, a couple, $4 million? Maybe I don't know what they're getting.
And then they had the Logan Wilson trade. We can kind of just talk about the Cowboys as a whole here. I think their run defense is a lot better than where it was the past couple of years with
Oh
Micah.
yeah,
There's no doubt about it. They couldn't stop the run. And they do seem to have a decent pass rush now, again, with Ezeraku and Clowney. The problem is, I don't know if that secondary could guard Ohio State today. So
hey, Bland and Diggs they got a lot of money
if they
invested
could
there
get
too.
healthy, those
Yeah,
guys can't ever stay on the football field. And again, when you talk about where we're at right now for Dallas, 3-5-1, very far back of the playoffs. Like Minnesota's 4-4, but they just beat Detroit. Like they look legit. Chicago's 5-3, and they've shown flashes. The Niners are 6-3, and you would say on a talent scale, maybe it's lacking, but their coaching seems to be making up for that left and right, and they keep winning these games. So
yeah.
I don't believe that there's a world Dallas gets into the playoffs this year
I
that
mean,
doesn't feature major injuries to some of the teams above them.
I don't think they made this trade with playoffs in mind, bro.
Yeah,
Like that's real
that's what I'm
talk.
saying. Like, I think that this trade was made
Yeah,
with the idea of let's just finish out this year and try and be the best we could be, and we'll get guys in the secondary for next year and come back with a loaded D line, a good enough secondary, and a high level offense. But so my guess is they don't have Pickens next year. My guess is Pickens gets paid. So now
yeah,
you're lacking a receiver again. And I their timelines are just all discombobulated here. And for the Jets, again, you trade away your two best defensive players, and you could argue the team's two best players, period. I
yeah.
don't know where you have Garrett Wilson compared to Gardner and Williams, but you bring back 3 first-round picks, a second-round pick, and 2 scratch-off ticket-esque players that, was Mozzie Smith worth a first-round pick? No, but
We'll find out now.
could he eventually be a rotational defensive tackle for the Jets, similar to, how the Philadelphia Eagles use Jordan Davis and Moro Ajomo, kind of
Yeah,
50-50? Like, you could get that. Adonai Mitchell, going to get a lot of opportunity. And we saw him have some explosive games for the Colts this year. That Rams game where he obviously had the blunder dropping the ball before the end zone, that doesn't change the fact that he was open enough to get that long touchdown. So I think the Jets walked away as real winners on the
yeah.
day. The only error I have for the Jets is that they didn't trade Brees Hall, because Brees Hall's on an expiring deal. So unless the plan is to
Bring him back.
extend him, but he doesn't want to be there. All like the reports came out that he was requesting a trade today. So unless your plan is to franchise tag him, but since the franchise tag was introduced, we've only seen 2 running backs ever franchise tagged: Saquon Barkley in 2023 and Le'Veon Bell in 2017. And no disrespect to Brees Hall, but you're not in the same conversation that those guys were in at that point in time. Like, those guys were
Yeah.
clear-cut top 5 guys.
I
When you
think that
franchise
request
tag
was like
someone,
I think it was impulsive, bro. Like my homies got traded. Get
I
rid of
think
me
he's
too. You're
wanted.
gonna suck.
I think he's wanted out for a minute, and I just
Oh,
think apparently the asking price was a 3rd-round pick. Nobody was willing to meet it. I think if you could have gotten a 4th-round pick for Brees Hall with all the other draft capital you got today, you could have made a move down the line with that pick to move up. I just think that they should have moved off of him. But again, this is another trade that I leave thinking the New York Jets won, because
yeah.
the New York Jets defense was not good with these players. Like, let's call a spade a spade. It wasn't good last year with these players, and it wasn't good this year with a new defensive mind in there. You're not going to just keep on kicking out head coaches to try and make these players work to the level that they once did. And that's more so at Sauce, but some of that has to do with Quinnen as well. I
I
do
mean,
think that these players in new situations could absolutely thrive. And Quinnen Williams, I think, was even good this year. But how good he wasn't raising the Jets' ceiling. They're 1-7. So
they're on the field a
they
lot too.
clearly
So
need, but they clearly need a lot. How do you get a lot? Stockpile these draft picks. Again, 5 first-rounders over the next 2 years. That's a lot of talent the Jets are going to be able to bring in. And I get it. There's the old meme that people will say, wow, with a first-round pick, you could get a player as good as Quinnen Williams, which, like, the same meme that, like, went around with, like, the Cowboys, where it's like, you could pick the boat or the mystery box. And Peter from Family Guy's like, oh, but the mystery box could be anything. It could even be a boat. And it's like, sure, the first round pick could be anything. It could even be
Yeah, you
Quinnen
never
Williams.
know.
But I think the Jets just need so much more help and they need a quarterback. And I think these picks give them the ammunition to whether they get the number one pick or not to move up to the number one pick. So I think the Jets did pretty well today. I think the Cowboys, this Quinnen Williams deal is good for the future. So I don't
Yeah.
want to call it a complete loss. Maybe like if it was a grade, I'd give it a C because I do think for the future, it's a good move. He's 27. He's still in the prime of his career. It's not like this guy's too old to be an impact player for them one day, but I think the hole is too deep at this point in the season to really climb out of it and go be an NFC playoff team.
I mean, yeah. I think the Jets won the day, and the Cowboys they did. That was a good trade by them. I don't think they won the trade. I think the Jets won the day. And for all the Jets fans that are complaining, bro, you woke up this morning and you had one win. We're almost halfway through the season. You have one win.
Yeah.
You should be rejoicing right now because now you have one win and 5 first-round picks in the next 2 years. So
Yeah.
what are you complaining about, bro? Like, let's be real here.
Yeah, I just that's how I feel too. So we agree there. I think another massive winner on the day was the Seattle Seahawks, man. Rashid Shaheed, I think, is a very, very nice pick for Seattle. They've been slowly climbing up my power rankings as we've gone through the season. And this was one of the teams that I whiffed on big in the offseason. I'll bring it up every time I talk about them because I just try and, be somebody that holds themselves accountable. And when I'm right, I know that I'm going to take the victory laps. And when I'm wrong, like hand up, I was wrong about Seattle. I didn't see on paper how this offense was going to be successful to a level enough to get into the playoffs. This offense is successful enough for me to consider it a top 10 unit in football right now. Sam Darnold's absolutely hooping. This man should be in MVP conversations. JSN, I think, has firmly solidified himself as a top 5 wide receiver in football. He's my number 3 currently. I still have Chase and Jefferson above him, but I think that JSN has passed Puka and Lamb for me. That's just where I'm at.
I'm a Puka guy. That's
I know. That's why I said I think he's just kind of firmly viewed as a top 5 guy, and we can leave it at that. And to add in Shaheed, a field stretcher who has experience in this Kubiak offense. Let us not forget, Kubiak was the offensive coordinator for the Saints last year. The Saints opened up the season very hot when Derek Carr and Shaheed were healthy. What was Shaheed doing in that stretch? Shaheed played 6 games for the Saints last year. In those 6 games, he went over 80 yards 4 times. Like, this guy has shown to be a productive field stretcher in this offense. The Seahawks open up the season signing MVS, trying to put him in that Shaheed role, and it never really worked. Torrey Horton seemed to have a pretty good game in what will be the Rashid Shaheed role versus Washington. However, as we sit today, now Rashid Shaheed's in that spot. I think he's a dynamic player. He's a free agent at the end of the year. I think he's somebody they could absolutely extend. And when I look at Seattle, this was the piece that I felt they were away from being real Super Bowl threats in the NFC. When I look at them today, the level of quarterback play Darnold's at, Charbonnet and Ken Walker, I think that some rushing lanes are going to start to open up for them now because of the threat of Shaheed to take you out over the top, and Smith and Jigba needs to be respected. You still have Torrey Horton and Cooper Kupp, Arroyo and Barner, a decent offensive line, and a defense that's absolutely balling. Leonard Williams wrecked that game versus Washington over and over again. Witherspoon, one of the best nickels in football. Reek Woolen, still on the team.
Yes.
Josh Job's been playing really nice. So I think everything that Seattle's putting together, they have to be viewed as a legit threat. And to me, at this point in the season, I view them as a top 3 team in the NFC after this deal.
Wow. I mean, their run game, it's not amazing. It doesn't pop out on paper, but it does get the job done. Their defense gets the job done too. And Sam Darnold is electric. And like you said, JSN, this is his coming out year. He's most definitely going to finish number 1 in receiving yards, barring any injuries. But now they kind of got their Deshaun Jackson type player who you just tell him to run straight and he just runs past everybody. And Darnold can get the ball there. We've been seeing him do it all season. So there's no reason to not think the Seahawks are going to be legit this year. They've beaten some pretty solid teams. I know off the top of my head, they beat the Chiefs and the Steelers and the Jaguars too, I believe. And I know they got some pretty tough games. I know they have the Rams this year too. So, I mean, we're going to see. I know they got the Rams and the Vikings, so they're going to play some pretty tough teams.
There's some big divisional games down the stretch for them. That division is loaded, the NFC West. Yeah, even the Cardinals, I think, are like frisky.
I mean, the Rams, 49ers are banged up. I mean, Cardinals got quarterback issues.
I mean, Seattle's leading the division right now. So they're leading a really, really good division. I didn't mention the trade. It was Shaheed, and the Saints got back a 2026 fourth and a 2026 fifth. For New Orleans, I think they were in a situation where they probably knew, similar to what I just talked about with Breece Hall with the Jets, right? Rashid Shaheed probably wasn't re-signing with them. They weren't going to franchise tag him. They're going to give Chris Olave a ton of money this offseason. I think he's the guy that they're focused on extending. They need to rebuild that offense a little bit. Kamara, I think he's pretty soon to be the past there. They have to get a new quarterback. Apologies, Saints fans. Didn't see enough from Tyler Shucks. Sorry.
Real talk.
And I just think that Shaheed wasn't a part of their future plans. And if that's the case, and you can get a 4th and a 5th round pick for him, so be it.
I mean, I don't blame the Saints for
I don't think that they're
trade.
losers. I think that Seattle's bigger winners on the deal, but I don't think it's at the expense of New Orleans being a loser. I just think Seattle is in a spot where they're competing at a very high level right now, and this was a win for them to add a premier playmaker without giving up a pick in the first 3 rounds.
I mean, whenever you're are they first in the conference right now? I don't got those.
Nah, they're not.
I know they're 6-2. How many teams are 6-2? There's a lot of 6-2, so
they're not first in the conference.
Oh God, this guy. But I mean, anytime you have a chance to go from a good team to a potential contender with one piece, I mean, most people are going to say that team wins unless they overpay.
Right. And again, I don't think the Saints lost. I think the Saints, it's kind of a net new. I would say the Saints were mini winners. I think the fact that you got something for a guy that you were probably going to lose for nothing is a win.
Yeah, and he's replaceable. You can replace Shaheed. I think you can replace him
for them. I think Shaheed. I think Shaheed has the ability to be the reason Seattle wins a playoff game. I think he is the kind of guy who can make a game-changing play. And I don't think that mattered for New Orleans, and I do think it does matter for Seattle. So I think that was a big win. Another wide receiver that was on the move, Jakobi Meyers, had been talked about. Jakobi Meyers was per Poly market, the number 1 most likely player to be traded at the deadline. He was traded earlier on in the day. We thought Patriots, we thought Bills, we thought Steelers, we thought one of those teams was going to be the one to land Jakobi Meyers. Surprisingly, it is the Jacksonville Jaguars. They get Jakobi Meyers. They give up a 4th round pick and a 6th round pick in the upcoming draft. Jacksonville has a decent amount of draft capital. I know that they traded a bunch to get Travis Hunter. So people think that they don't have a lot. Before this trade, they had 13 picks in the upcoming draft. They're down to 11. So they still have a decent amount of picks. To me, this says to me that Travis Hunter's injury a little bit worse than we're led to believe. They put him on IR. And originally, the reporting made it seem like Travis Hunter was going to be back right after his IR stint. I'm not thinking so. I'm thinking that Travis Hunter might be back for the playoffs if the Jags are to make it for there. Yeah. But I think that Brian Thomas and Jakobi Meyers and Parker Washington, Brenton Strange, he'll be back. That's their receiving core going forward. And I think that if they wanted to, this allows them a little bit more flexibility of playing Travis Hunter more at corner if they wanted to this year.
That's what it tells me.
Which is one of the dynamic parts of having a Travis Hunter. One other part of the trade that I wanted to bring up, the Jags have been dealing with a lot of drops at wide receiver this year. Jakobi Meyers has one of the surest handed receivers in football. I believe he averages out to 1 drop per every 7 games, which puts him at 2 to 3 drops a year. So the Jags were getting more than that a game. So Jakobi Meyers is a guy Jakobi Meyers is a guy that if Trevor Lawrence could get the ball to him accurately, which it's a big if with Trevor, he'll catch it. So
I mean, they needed that, man. I ain't gonna lie, and I
and
don't know what the Raiders are gonna do now.
the Jags sit here today at 5-3. They are a playoff team as things currently stand. They would be the 7 seed right now, and they do hold that win over Kansas City. So Kansas City has to surely pass them for them to lose that spot. And the offense has been missing a little bit. Some of it's, I think, Trevor missing it. Some of it's, I think, Brian Thomas missing it. So a sure-handed receiver in Meyers, it makes sense. Do you think the Jags are the winners? The Raiders? Who?
um, I don't. I don't think there's really a winner, bro. Like Jakobi Meyers requested a trade,
Yeah.
and the team said no. They could have got more for him if they traded him in the beginning of the season. I'm 99% sure about that. For the Raiders, who's their number one receiver? He's like what, 5'8", Trey Tucker? Like
I think we're going to see more Jack Betch, and I think we're going to see more Dante Thornton, two guys that they drafted in this draft class. And I think their number one receiver is Brock Bowers.
I
think for the first time we saw Brock Bowers healthy, and the Raiders were like, oh, hell yeah, get Jakobi Meyers up out of here.
Hey man, maybe that is true, but I know for sure Beck and Thornton played a combined like 2 snaps on offense this past week, and the game went to overtime.
Here's what I'll say. I think the Raiders won the deal. I think the Raiders won this trade because similar to Rashid Shaheed and similar to Brees Hall, Jakobi Meyers is on an expiring contract. They were never going to franchise tag him, and he did not want to be there. Getting anything back for a guy that doesn't want to leave when your team's going to suck is a win in my book. And for Jacksonville, I think that they are still going to miss the playoffs. This is not a game changer for me. So I think you traded away draft capital for a player that's not going to help you get into the playoffs. I think you're going to miss the playoffs, and he's going to leave you too, because you're not going to pay him starter money, because going into next year, you're going to view Brian Thomas, Travis Hunter, and Parker Washington as your wide receiver room, just like you do right now. And a team that has a ton of money like New England will offer him a contract when he is for the free.
Hey, low key, you kind of ate with that one. I ain't gonna lie. And honestly, this trade means nothing to me because I wanted him on my team. But so I'm a little bit bitter. But not only that, man. Like I don't think Meyers is gonna put the Jags over the top, because I think Trevor is the one holding this team back. They had ETN playing like a top 5 back for the first couple weeks of the season, and their defense has been keeping them in every single game. And yet, it seems like they had to scratch and claw to beat the freaking Raiders in the last couple of seconds of overtime.
And the one thing I will say for the Jags is they have to hope that Jakobi Meyers balls for them, because if they don't make the playoffs like I project, they will get a compensatory pick when Meyers leaves, based on how much he signs for.
Okay.
And if Jakobi Meyers, but we've seen before, sometimes there's a market for guys, sometimes there isn't. And if Meyers has to take a 1-year, $10 million deal somewhere, then the Jags are SOL on a good compensatory pick. It won't be a 4th rounder. So,
and this upcoming draft is loaded with wide receivers too. So teams might just say, why do we get Meyers when we could go get Mekhi Lemon or freaking someone else, you know?
So I think that this is an L for the Jags. I think that they are a loser in this deal.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm with that too, man. Steelers should have got him. I felt amazing today.
I want to talk about my team a little bit, the Philadelphia Eagles, because they didn't make any moves today at the deadline, but they made a couple moves throughout the week. I want to start with the big one. The Eagles traded a 2026 third-round pick for edge Jaelan Phillips. I think it's important to note the Eagles had 2 third-round picks before compensatory picks are handed out, their own, and the Jets, they traded their own in this deal. The Jets looks like it might be basically a 2nd-round pick. So just something to note there.
Basically.
As well, like I mentioned, with Meyers, if Jaelan Phillips leaves after this year and gets a big contract because he's 27 years old and an edge rusher who's shown explosiveness, the Eagles will get a compensatory pick for him that will likely be a 3rd or 4th rounder in the 2027 draft. So when you look at this deal, if Jaelan Phillips leaves, the Eagles traded a 2026 3rd for Jaelan Phillips and a 2027 4th. Just to clarify what this deal was and why it was Some people were calling it high risk, high reward. I just want to say why it's not high risk for Harry Roseman. Because if and when Jaelan Phillips leaves, it would be because he's getting a lot of money. And if he got a lot of money, the Eagles would get a compensatory pick like they're going to get for guys like Milton Williams and Josh Sweat that left. Now, for this season, this is a massive W for Philly. They have been lacking pass rush. And some of that is because Nolan Smith is hurt. And some of that is because they were relying on guys like Za'Darius Smith, who retired in the middle of the season, Josh Uche, and Azeez Ojulari to sustain a pass rush. Jaelan Phillips has an ability to be a game wrecker. And when he has previously played with Vic Fangio, he was a monster. He recorded 8.5 sacks as a rookie under Vic Fangio. 8.5 as a rookie. He has proven to thrive in this system. Howie Roseman already said that he talked to Vic. Vic likes Phillips. Phillips seems excited to be there. The risk with Phillips is he's already proven to be a very injury-prone player. He's already torn his Achilles, and he's already torn his ACL in his career. So, again, when he's out there, he is a monster. In 2022, he boasted a 23.9% pass rush win rate at edge, which ranked 5th in the position that season. He has a 17.1 pass rush win rate at edge for his career, and he's 16.5% this season, which is all above average. And we've seen him play at a really high rate over the last few seasons as well. Miami's like eating all of his money on this deal. So
what? For real?
So Philly's not even really paying him. So I think that this was a massive W as a deal for Philly. I think that they're the winners on this deal. And again, I don't think the Dolphins are necessarily losers. If they didn't plan on bringing Phillips back, getting a 3rd-round pick for him, not a bad haul.
Yeah, I mean, they need a rebuild, so it's a win for them. But the Eagles, man, for this trade, yeah, they won this trade, man. Because they needed an edge rusher real bad.
And now that we're hearing what some of the prices were today, like Jermaine Johnson didn't get moved because the Jets were demanding a 2nd-round pick for him.
Mm-hmm. Hendrickson too.
Hendrickson didn't get moved because the Bengals were demanding a 1st-round pick for him. Bradley Chubb from the Dolphins didn't get moved. So I think the Eagles striking early on edge rusher at Jaelan Phillips turned out to be a very high IQ play. Another trade that Philly made, the Ravens trade for cornerback Jair Alexander from the Baltimore Ravens. The Eagles get Jair Alexander in a 2027 7th-round pick. The Ravens get a 2026 6th-round pick. Again, for Baltimore, Jair was on a 1-year deal. He wasn't going to play for them anymore. Getting anything in return, I view as a win if you just plan on never playing him. For Philly, they obviously have been struggling at cornerback too. Every week that we've talked about them, that's the number one thing that I said. They also added Michael Carter from the New York Jets, who is primarily a nickel, but could play outside. They got Michael Carter in a 7th-round pick for John Mechie and a 6th-round pick. So I kind of want to talk about those two trades together because that's what Philly has decided. One of Jair Alexander, Jacorian Bennett, Michael Carter, or Adoree Jackson or Keely Ringo. One of those 5 guys has to be playable at outside corner. And if so, we are set. Yeah. I think Jair is the most likely to be the best option of those guys. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch a lot of Baltimore, so I don't know why he wasn't playing. Like, do you know what's going on over there?
I know that he was not playing well.
Just not playing well. So y'all might have the same situation on your hands then.
So against Buffalo in week 1, he allowed 5 receptions on 5 targets for 113 yards. However, he only played 1 more game with the Ravens the rest of the year, which was against the Texans. In 13 coverage snaps, he only allowed 1 reception for 14 yards. He was a healthy scratch 5 times this season.
Wow.
So it's tough to say exactly what level play we're getting from him. Howie Roseman mentioned that after talking to Jair, he thinks he's healthy now. So I don't know if he was battling through an injury early on with Baltimore or what was going on. My thing is Jair Alexander is 28 years old, and I think 2 years ago he was a fringe top 5 corner in the sport. I don't know where he's at today. My thought is today he has to be better than Keely Ringo and Adoree Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, that's an upgrade at that point.
As long as he is average, this is a massive win.
Yeah, and it's not only that, it's the combination with the Jalen Phillips trade as well. Now you guys are going to be able to get to the quarterback. Now your
Yep.
corners can make plays on the ball. They can, roam more
And I
freely.
think it's very possible that Jair gets hurt because he's just been hurt through a lot of his career. I think if they could have a healthy and average Jair Alexander athletically, but a guy that's as smart as Jair, who is obviously has a good IQ and can be a ball hawk for the playoffs, they could make another run very
Yeah.
easily. And I think that with Michael Carter giving yourself some additional options, you still have Jacorian Bennett coming back. Based on what I saw Sauce Gardner go for, I don't know like what a middle level pack of the corner would have cost because there just wasn't a trade. It seems
Third.
like again for the price, I like it. It feels low risk, high reward. I don't know
Yeah.
if it will work out, but you paid nothing for the guy. And if he hits and gets back to what he was, you're cooking with gas and you might have the best defense in football. If he gets back to what he was 2 to 3 years ago, you have the best defense in football.
Yeah, this defense healthy. Shit, look out, man. And it's like teams are getting injured more and more every single week. I know,
And
like,
they talked about potentially playing Michael Carter at safety as well, him having that ability. I saw some people saying that the Eagles should have traded for Minka Fitzpatrick because Andrew Makuba has been good this year, but he's made some big mistakes, and you can't afford that in playoff games. So maybe that's the thought process there. Play some Michael Carter at safety and shift Makuba around. And I think it's a very versatile defense. I will say that.
yeah. I mean, yeah, because he was a nickel, and for a nickel to have the ability to slide out to safety as well, maybe if he has to line up on the outside too.
I mean, we talked about that with what we thought Jalen Ramsey could be for Pittsburgh this year in the season previews.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that a different time. But they just and Mike Tomlin said he's going to be playing safety moving forward, and we just won with him at safety against the Colts. So, I mean, that seems to be happening as well. But for the Eagles, man, they're going to be if this can actually. I mean, I don't think Roseman will just trade for anybody. I get it. Like Adoree was kind of like they were kind of desperate or whatever, but this seems like more strategic. Like, okay, we need this guy and we're going to be good. So I feel like the Eagles are going to be fine.
Yeah, I felt like the Eagles were trade deadline winners. That's why I wanted to bring that up because I didn't think that they had to pay a high price compared to what some other teams are playing, and I thought that they got a good value.
Don't let that running game come back too. It's going to get real spooky.
Tank Bigsby, dude. Listen.
Oh yeah,
I believe that Tank Bigsby purposely sucked at kick returner now. After seeing what he did, finally getting to be a backup running back, I think he was like, hell nah, I'm not being no kick returner. And he was like, y'all are going to play me a backup running back because you paid multiple draft picks to get me. And I think he played himself out of that role and into backup running back. And then he had 100 yards versus the Giants. So,
hey, that's a win-win. For real.
Yeah. So now I just want to go through some of the other moves, and then after this, we're going to talk about who we thought were the biggest losers out of teams that did nothing. The Titans traded cornerback Roger McCreary to the Rams earlier in this week. It was McCreary in a 6th round pick for a 5th round pick. Feels like a win to me for the Rams. They need some help and depth in that secondary. McCreary's a decently sized corner who should be able to help them out, and they're again a team vying for a Super Bowl, adding talent.
Yeah, they needed that upgrade.
The Patriots trade edge rusher Keon White to the 49ers. Keon White in a 7th round pick for a 6th round pick. Obviously, it's hindsight, but now that we know Michael Williams tore his ACL, Keon White is a massive piece for the Niners who's going to get real play time. He wasn't playing for the Patriots. So I think it's more of a win on the Niners side of things, though.
I mean, yeah, and I don't think the Patriots really got that much anything for him anyway. So the Niners need him to be productive as well.
Your Pittsburgh Steelers acquired Kyle Duggar in a 7th round pick for a 6th round pick. The Patriots' moves at the deadline to me were kind of an L, and we'll talk about them a little bit in the biggest loser section, maybe. It felt like they were offloading talent last week to bring in talent this week and never brought any in. As a Steelers fan, I'll let you talk. How do you feel about the Duggar addition?
Oh, we for sure won that trade. He, on 3 days on the team, played like 95% of the snaps for us, and the defense had 6 turnovers or 5 turnovers. The
Yeah.
defense had 5 turnovers. With him and Jalen Ramsey as safety moving forward, the Steelers, I think we're going to be fine. We're not going to be 5 turnovers a game fine, but we're going to be way better than we were previously.
And having that 2-game lead on Baltimore, with what
Yeah.
we saw Baltimore do on Thursday night, might be make or break. Speaking of Baltimore, they trade for edge rusher Draymond Jones from the Tennessee Titans for a conditional 5th-round pick. The Ravens traded away Odafe Owa, and they needed another edge rusher, especially with Matabuke done for the year. Van Noy, you kind of question his status, and Mike Green's a rookie. So I think bringing in Draymond Jones was a good deal for them. And the Titans, again, another team that is in the gulag, basically, getting a pick. I think it was fine. I think it was about a pretty even deal.
Yeah, I mean, me too. The Titans, they're a disaster right now. So the Ravens can actually use them.
Yeah. The Browns trade edge rusher Tyron Shinoyaka to the Bears for Bears get the edge rusher and a 7th-round pick, and the Browns get a 6th-round pick. The Browns, I don't think he was really playing much for them, and with the Bears having Odangbo out for the year with an Achilles injury, they needed some edge rusher depth. Feels like a pretty even trade to me. Not like a nothing move, but a fine move.
I feel like we see that. Oh, my player in the 7th-round pick for a 6th-round pick. I feel like we've heard that so many times, dog.
But just a team that's looking to compete for a playoff spot, getting a deal done with a team that's not looking to compete for a playoff spot.
Exactly. And I don't think the Bears. I think they should have went after Hendrickson instead, bro. Like they need a pass rusher. Like
the first is a hefty price because there's no assurance he'll sign with you. It's not like he was an art. That's why the price for Hendrickson was never going to get done, because you weren't going to have assurance he would be yours. With Quinnen Williams, the Cowboys know he's a Cowboy for the next 4 years or something like that. Yeah. Like he's locked to Sauce Gardner. The Colts know he's a Colt for the next 5.5 years. For Trey Hendrickson, you have half a season.
And what are they doing? The Bengals making the price that high? Like, who do you think you are? Like, who do you think he is, bro? Like, I don't know.
One hell of an organization. And then lastly, the Chargers trade a 6th-round pick for offensive tackle Trevor Penning. They had to do this. Joe Alt's now out for the year. I talked about this a little bit in my weekly recap. The Chargers, I think like they're just no longer have an opportunity to be in my Super Bowl bubble with the offensive line injuries and with what we've seen this team be like without Joe Alt. But holy smokes, next year when they have Alt and Slater, the level that this team performed at when Alt was out there, Justin Herbert might have 8 seconds to throw every play in shotgun next year with Slater and Alt, man.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm putting in Justin Herbert MVP tickets next year for sure.
This year though is so sad. Like this
year they're still competing for the playoffs. So Penning, I understand.
Technically,
New Orleans, like Penning was just kind of a nothing for them. So getting anything back for him, I think, is a win. I think New Orleans. Yeah. I think New Orleans did pretty good today, man. Like they cleaned up a couple of draft picks, getting rid of guys that weren't going to be on their team next year.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about some of the biggest losers, some of the teams that didn't do anything today. Do you want to start with your boys? I know you wanted to talk about them.
I actually want to start in the team I'm a little bit more disappointed in for now, and I'm gonna say the Chiefs because, bro,
that's a great one.
The way they got exposed, bro, by Buffalo, and I get it. They kind of do this thing with Buffalo every year in the regular season. They just play like dog shit, and then the playoffs come, and then the Buffalo Bills have no idea what to do because they haven't seen none of this stuff all season. But man, like it's like a reoccurring theme, bro. Breece Hall, I know you offered a 4th-round pick, but dang, bro, you couldn't have got a little bit desperate and said, "Fuck it, like I'll give you a 3rd." Like you needed a running. So there were other options out there too, man. Like
the Chiefs had some real issues going into the deadline. Obviously, they're 5-4. Like we know that they have some real issues.
Yeah.
number one for me is their offense is one-dimensional. The offensive line, to their credit, the reason that Mahomes was just getting pressured every time, by the end of that game, 3 of their 5 starting offensive linemen weren't out there. Josh Emmons is back with the team. Like,
Yeah.
their offensive line is going to be healthier. I don't think that we will see Patrick Mahomes hit 12 plus times the next time they play Buffalo in the playoffs, because I'm sure we're headed towards that again. But there are some major factors that I still think makes Buffalo a bad matchup for Kansas City that they didn't resolve. Buffalo's number one weakness is their run defense. You cannot run the ball because all of your running backs stink.
Horrible.
And maybe Rashad Smith's good. Maybe they're going to get him more involved out of the bye, and he's going to be a shocking X factor turn of the tables for this team. But the fact that you, Kansas City, weren't willing to pay a third-round pick for Breece Hall, who, if you're Kansas City and you get Breece Hall, your third-round pick's kind of basically a fourth-round pick, because it's going to be in the 30s, probably, maybe the late 20s if you have an off year. But from what we've seen in the Mahomes era, your draft pick's going to be 29 through 32. So not trading that for a guy who immediately helps you out against what could be viewed as your biggest competition in Buffalo, to expose Buffalo's biggest weakness, was a massive L for me. As well, their defensive line isn't as strong as it's been in years past. Chris Jones is still a very good player. Is he still top tier elite? I'm not sure. He can't carry the defensive line like he did last year and the years before that. I know that. James Cook rushed for 100 yards against that team. That's the first time that's been done since Lamar did it in the season opener last year. Buffalo was able to control the game and dominate it. Kansas City's lucky that that was a one-score game. If you watch that game, Buffalo owned that game.
Yeah, it was domination.
And I don't... Listen, I think that there's some bad matchups out there in the AFC for Buffalo. I think particularly the Colts would be a bad matchup and a bad draw for Buffalo because of Jonathan Taylor, their offensive line, and their ability to run the ball and control the game. But for Kansas City, Buffalo remains a bad matchup. And if it's like every other playoffs, you're going to run into them eventually. So I agree with you. Kansas City basically said, Patrick, you're going to be Superman again. And they're 5-4, and they're pretty much cooked for the 1 seed.
Yeah, I mean, bro, the reason why they're
you got to go on the road again.
Yeah, they wouldn't be losers normally in this situation, but the fact that they're 5-4, and I get it. The main problems that you listed are defensive line, offensive line. Usually, Mahomes can kind of overcome those because the offensive line, Mahomes is a little bit more loose in the playoffs, and for the defensive line. And the linebackers too, they're freaking playoff risers, man. They live for playoffs. But if you don't have a running back, bro, there's a possibility that you can miss the playoffs. Like, I know it's crazy to say, and it's probably not going to happen.
If they started today, and I get it, like that's a shitty thing to say because they don't start today, but we're halfway through the season and the Kansas City Chiefs are out of the playoffs.
Bro, like,
you would have been called crazy if you said that to open the year.
Yeah, my thing is, if you didn't want Breece Hall, cool, bro. You could have got so many other, like,
what could the price have really been on Tony Pollard if you called up the Titans?
Bro,
what could it have really been?
That 4th rounder could have been Tony Pollard. And I get it. Like, Tony Pollard hasn't been amazing this year, but anything is an upgrade over 3rd and 1 Kareem Hunt, man. Like, that's all he's good for.
There had to have been options. I 1,000% agree. We talked about them a little bit. I think the Patriots were slight losers. They could have gotten a wide receiver and didn't.
Yeah.
And Kayshon Bouttie's hurt now. And we saw that without him, how thin that wide receiver room really looked. Stephon Diggs is nice, but it doesn't look like he could play a high snap percentage anymore. It looks like he's good in bursts, and that's how they use him. But in terms of a real legit one that could be out there 85% of the time with Drake May, they don't have that. And Jakobi Meyers, Rashid Shaheed, those are like 2 guys that you could have extended after this year and made a part of your system going forward if things had worked out. And again, they sold their depth in Keon White and Kyle Duggar, and it seemed like they were getting additional capital to make moves today, and they didn't get an edge rusher, and they didn't get another wide receiver. And I think that those things could cost them come playoff time.
Yeah, I mean, I know Vrabel did say that they plan on playing Kyle Williams a little bit more at the
They
receiver.
don't have a
So
choice.
yeah, I mean, they have to play him now, but that could be a bright spot for the for the Patriots. Yeah, I think this team is playing really good, and thank God they have a pretty easy schedule moving forward. But their depth, come playoff time, man, they're 1 or 2 injuries away from man, having a really glaring weakness on their team. Man, I don't know if Drake May can overcome that in his second year just yet, but
Yeah.
we're gonna have to see.
I'll kick it back to you. Do you want to talk about your Steelers yet, or anybody
Yeah,
else?
yeah, I'm gonna talk about the Steelers,
Yeah.
man, because we should have made a trade for a wide receiver. And Alan Lazard, no, like we needed a legit wide receiver
And
because
there were guys out there. We saw it
it's
today.
it's starting to really scare me, man. I don't even think we have a receiver averaging over 65 receiving yards a game, honestly. And I don't know if DK gets hurt. I don't know if you want to run a 3 tight end set. What are we gonna do? Like
Yeah.
Calvin Austin is like 5'3".
I don't
Like you
know
can't,
how they didn't bring in a receiver today.
bro. It's
Because
incredible.
when you and another name that I saw floating out there with their 3-6 record and Jane Daniels probably done for the year, Debo Samuel was
He would have been
probably
amazing.
available,
He would have fit perfectly
but
with
he was
us.
probably available for the
Yeah,
right price, and it just feels like a missed opportunity for Pittsburgh. And it feels like the defense may have gotten right with some of the changes that they made, and they're 5-3, but Baltimore is still favored to win that division. And you have 2 games left against Baltimore. And if you wanted to beat Lamar, your offense has to be dynamic. And they didn't do anything to add, a
yeah,
dynamic piece to their passing game that they really could use. Because Rodgers is balling.
yeah.
I mean, I don't think Rodgers is like a top 10 quarterback in the sport, but he's producing at a pretty high level from what you thought he could be when you signed a 41-year-old quarterback.
And especially with the weapons that he has, man. He has one
Right.
receiver and freaking tight end, 3 tight ends who are pretty good. But I'm just saying, if DK misses any amount of time, you might as well put the L on the schedule already, man, because it's not going
Yeah.
to be good. Roman Wilson is like 5'10, Calvin is like 5'9, and MVS, he has some height on him, but he's on the practice squad right now.
Mhm.
So I don't know, man. Like that is just really disappointing. And I think you just make all these moves on defense when our head coach is a defensive minded coach, right? But the moves you make do imply that you're going all in for defense. Why
Yeah.
can't you just give Rodgers another receiver? Because there's a
Especially
lot,
when we heard the price, a 4th and a 6th round pick for Shaheed or Meyers.
bro. We just had 6 turnovers and we got outgained yardage wise by like 100 yards.
Yep.
Like so, and I don't know what the statistic is, but I'm pretty sure we've gotten outgained yardage wise like in 80% of our games this year. We don't get more yards than the other team, whether we win or lose. And that's what scares me.
Yeah, that's for sure scary. Sticking in the AFC, another one of my losers is the Houston Texans. They're 3-5, and while I agree that it's a tall task for them to get back to the playoffs this year, I think that there were some pieces available, man, that Houston should have been buyers on. The Giants basically put out a press statement saying, "Come get Evan Neal, 25-year-old guard who has high draft capital in him." Like Houston, I mean, any offensive lineman, Wyatt Teller, Bonita, from the 2 guys on the Browns, like there has to have been options to improve your offensive line. Going into this offseason, I would argue Houston needs to add in 4 offensive linemen. Ariante Ursary, the rookie you drafted, is decent, and maybe Titus Howard's fine, but that interior offensive line needs a complete rework. They're the
Yeah.
worst team in the NFL in third in short to go, fourth and short to go,
Wow.
need to run the ball situations because they can't get any movement. So while yes, it would have, I think that they should have been in the Brees Hall business too, because you got Jaden Higgins and you got Jalen Noel, guys that he knows from Iowa State. Probably likely he resigns. This Joe Mixon injury makes it seem like his fucking career's over. So,
Yeah.
like you're
Basically.
gonna need a running back next year, and you pair him with Woody Marks. I think that's a decent backfield, but you certainly should have been in on any offensive line pieces if you're Houston. And the fact that they just kind of sat on their hands and did nothing, I know is disappointing to the fan base, and I think it's a L.
Yeah,
because
man.
I do think that I think that at 3-5, I don't think your season's over, and you have
You,
the best defense in football. I just don't think rolling over and giving up at 3-5 is the way to go. I also had the Denver Broncos as a loser. I don't know what
wow, that's
I,
crazy.
it's a slight loss because there's a move I think that they should have made that they didn't. Jalen Waddle was available. Jalen Waddle would have costed a first round pick and plus. And the reports came out that Denver wasn't willing to pay it. I think they should have. I think if you had Cortland Sutton, Jalen Waddle, Troy Franklin, Dobbins, Harvey, Bo Nix, a top 5 offensive line, a top 5 defensive line, and just an overall top 5 defense, and you're going to have some home playoff games in Denver, and you could potentially be the 1 seed, they could have gone to the Super Bowl this year with Jalen Waddle. I firmly
Yeah,
believe that.
I mean,
And the
I
AFC
get
is
that,
open.
man. I
Is
get
the
that.
AFC going to be this open ever again? Because especially their
Yeah,
division, man, the Chargers' offensive line got railed with injuries this year. The Chiefs are 5-4. Your biggest comp right now is the New England Patriots, who, if you ran into them, guess what they can't do? Protect their quarterback. Guess what you could do? Sack the shit out of opposing quarterbacks. And the Indianapolis Colts, who we just watched them play a decent defense, and Daniel Jones still turn the ball over. Baltimore's 3-5. Their path to you could run the ball all over Buffalo, and Denver is the top 5 rushing offense in the sport. If you added Jalen Waddle, I think you could have called yourself one of the best teams in the AFC. And they could
bro.
still call themselves one of the best, but I'm talking they could have viewed themselves as a top 2 team in the AFC if they got Waddle. And
Yeah,
he's young, a stud,
yeah.
and on a friendly contract already. He's locked up for the next 4 years. I think that's a move that they regret.
I would have never thought you would have put the Broncos
I
as
don't think the
losers.
Broncos are a bad team. I don't think they're in trouble
Yeah,
post deadline, but I think that they should, and even if not that, they should have paid this cheap price that it would have taken to get Debo. Like they should have
yeah,
added another playmaker
yeah,
because Troy Franklin's emerged, but Debo and certainly Jalen Waddle are upgrades from Marvin Mims.
yeah. I guess I see what you're saying.
Again, they're
And
not big losers. I just think they're losers.
this may be the best shot they have at a Super Bowl and during Bo Nix's rookie
This is
contract.
probably their best shot at an AFC West title. I
Yeah,
mean, Mahomes and Herbert, how long are you going to bet on those teams not to put good shit around them? I mean,
yeah.
Herbert, the Chargers would have won that division if they were healthy, bro.
Low
So,
key, I'm starting to believe it. But
so do you have any other losers on your list? I have one more.
yeah, I got another loser. I think the 49ers are losers, bro. And the position that the 49ers are in, to have your quarterback about to come back and be healthier than he's been since the first couple of weeks of the season. What, you're 6-3, you have injuries all over the place on the defense. Whatever
Mm.
how the Cowboys were aggressive on their defense and getting all those upgrades, that should have been the 49ers. Maybe not, trading for an all-pro guy. If
Why
you do,
not? Why not
hey,
go get Quinnen Williams? You come back next year with Nick Bosa, Quinnen Williams, and Michael Williams. Why not?
that would be crazy.
And
That would be
if
crazy.
Quinnen Williams and Salah had a good connection, I would have rather them pay that price than Dallas. At least you're in a position to win this year.
Yeah, and what, they're 6-2, six
Six
and
and
three,
three,
six
but
and three.
but the offense is only going to get healthier. Ricky Pearsall and Brock Purdy have barely played this year.
Yeah, and it's just like by not making a big, I think they should have made like a couple of moves. They would have made two good
And
moves.
I think they have no shot of catching up to the Rams or Seahawks. I think in the second half of the season, those two teams are going to pull away and battle for the division. And San Francisco is going to be a wild card team because of their schedule. But now I think they're like a 10-7 wild card team.
Exactly, and it's like, why punt on the season? Right when this is one of the Christian McCaffrey's his most healthiest seasons that he's had in a cool minute. I get you trade away Debo, but you do have Ayuk maybe back by the end of the season. Pearsall getting healthy, and it's like Kittle's getting healthy too. All you needed was like a trade or two on the defense, maybe beef up that defensive line and maybe one secondary move, and you could have been okay. And I just feel like they're punting on the season, man. When you start off 6-3, I mean, without your starting quarterback for what, a month? That, like, you can't really ask for a better situation than that. So I just don't like it at all.
Yeah, my other biggest loser was the Detroit Lions. I think they needed another edge rusher. When you look at their sack leaders, Aiden Hutchinson at 7, and we know who Aiden Hutchinson is. He's like that dude.
Yeah.
But their next 4 leading sack guys are all from the linebacker position. And Muhammad, who has 6, I think 4 of them came in that one game versus Lamar. Like,
Damn.
so I'm just saying, like, he's not a consistent sack guy, right? Jack Campbell had a pretty good game against JJ McCarthy, but again, you're only getting additional pressure from sending these linebackers. That's not sustainable. In the playoffs, you have to be able to win with 4. And if teams are just going to chip or double Aiden Hutchinson, they're not going to win. We just saw this play out last year against Washington, and I know Hutchinson wasn't in that game, so Washington was able to run it up on them and score 40 plus. But good quarterbacks with good offensive lines are going to have time to throw against you. You think you're going to get pressure on Jalen Hurts with Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata? You think you're going to get pressure consistently on Jordan Love with that offensive line? Stafford, Baker with Tristan Wirfs out there? I've grown very low on the Detroit Lions. I'm going to be honest, and I was going to save it for the tier list tomorrow, but for whoever makes it an hour and 6 minutes into the video, you get to hear it now. I don't think I'd pick them to win a playoff game today. Unless they were matched up against the Niners. Would you pick them to beat Philly, Green Bay, the Rams, Seattle, or Tampa in a playoff game, regardless of location?
I might pick them to beat Green Bay. I'm not gonna lie,
but I watched Green Bay dominate. I mean, I know it was week 1. So like, we have to see the matchup again. But all I have on this is that Green Bay beat the brinks off you.
You know what? I see what you're saying, and they just don't look scary no more, man. Last year, bro,
they can only win one way. Every single time they get down in a game, it's cooked. Yeah. They cannot come back in games. And Jared Goff, I don't want to say he's being exposed, but we are seeing the loss of Ben Johnson. Even though there are some really high-level statistical output games from the Detroit Lions, I think we are seeing the loss of an experienced high-level OC in Ben Johnson. This last game against Minnesota, Jahmyr Gibbs had 9 rushing attempts. 9. David Montgomery had more than him. In what world, bro?
Hey, and the thing, the couple of weeks before that, Gibbs was getting the majority of the touches, and I guess, I guess they wanted to make an appointment.
And they were winning.
They were. But yeah, the Lions, man,
they frustrate me.
There's no fear, and people walk in their stadium and they're like, you know what, we can win today. Last year, it was not like that. It was like, bro, let's score with them. Let's score 40.
Their best case scenario right now, to me, is losing in the divisional round of the playoffs. Yeah. That's how I stand on them. So yeah, trade deadline. It was exciting. We talked for over an hour here. If you made it this far in the video, thumbs up, man. It's good for the algorithm. Hit the subscribe button. This is an every Wednesday podcast on the channel, but special Tuesday edition because of the trade deadline. Let us know your winners and losers in the comment section down below. I think we hit on every trade. If there's a loser that you missed or a team you want to talk about, let me know in the comment section. Always willing to yap. Check out JaVon's stuff linked in the description. And we will catch you guys next Wednesday. I think we might do a kind of late mid-season awards, but
1 week late.
1 week late. I think that's still where we're going to be at unless something else crazy happens. But I think we'll do a mid-season awards next week because that was the plan for this week. And then the deadline, because I didn't think the deadline was going to be active, but the deadline was active. So then we had to talk about it. So we will catch you guys then. Peace.
Yes, sir.